Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and Giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for The King in Giallo, and it's time for another unscripted movie review. Moments ago, got finished watching Basic Instinct, 1992 by Paul Verhoeven. At least that's how I say it. I don't know if that is how it should be said. But yeah, let's get right into it. So I'm not going to go too far on this review. I am going to be doing episode 5 of the Giallo Adjacent Podcast with my friend from Park Narcs. So that will go way deeper in. We'll go into spoiler territory. I will do my best to make this video rather quick and not go too far down that lane. But I will say about this movie. So, okay, first thing I guess would be, how Giallo is it? Kind of. It definitely plot-wise, it feels like it's in the territory. Stylistically, very far apart. One thing that I thought of while watching the movie in terms of these movies that are kind of adjacent, that are playing with a lot of the tropes, but not quite fully committing. Well, first off, a lot of people will say if it's not really Italian from those decades, it's not really. But I would say the main thing that movies that, like American movies that are kind of play with it, but don't fully commit, I would say they're playing it safe. And what I mean by that is, like, music in Giallo films is very much taking a risk. There's a lot of, I hate using this word, I really hate using this word, but there's a lot of juxtaposition. And I feel with American films, thrillers, horror films, whatever, the music really is tonally one and the same with what you're watching. With Giallo films, a lot of the times it's kind of playing against it. Not totally, not like Cannibal Holocaust with super happy music playing over horrible things happening, but it's definitely very jazzy sometimes, or it's just kind of like, yeah, and it's taking a risk there. And this is another one of those reasons why I feel like a lot of American audiences would have a really hard time getting into the genre, is because it just takes a lot of risks, and I feel most people won't really get it, or they just will be like, this is dumb, or why is it doing this? That's stupid. So relating that back to Basic Instinct, music is in line, which is by Jerry Goldsmith, I believe. Let me just confirm that. Yes, yeah. Music by Jerry Goldsmith is in tone with what's happening, playing it safe. Stylistically, visually, it's not really Giallo. The only elements that were kind of, in terms of visually, what I was seeing was there was a kill that happens later in the movie that aesthetically was kind of reminiscent, but it also kind of looked like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is funny because this predates that by like a decade nearly. I really enjoyed this movie. It's great. It was there's a really good investigation going on. The plot in a nutshell is you come in to this steamy sex scene with this unseen blonde woman with great breasts, and she's riding this guy and ties him up, and there looks like he's reaching climax, and she pulls out an ice pick and starts stabbing him to death. And then we follow the police as they investigate this, and the police are led by the homicide detective, who's led by Michael Douglas. And through the course of the investigation, they find one of his girlfriends, and she tells him, no, you want to talk to this other girl. And they go to the other girl's house, and that's played by Sharon Stone, and she's a writer, and she is telling them, like, no, I wasn't dating him, I was just having sex with him. I was having sex with him for like over a year and a half, I think. And the main kicker of this movie is the most recent book she wrote details a crime that is identical. And so there's a little bit of a tenebrae thing going on here, very similar, where the author is then under investigation for writing these events that are very, very close. And the major, like, crux of this movie is there's like a brief scene where before they really bring her in for interrogation, where this guy who's played by, I have to bring this up, Stephen Tobolowsky, who I know from Deadwood, he says that either the author did it knowing that her book is the perfect alibi, because why would I be so stupid as to commit the murder that I wrote about? Like, that's ludicrous. Why would I do that? Or it's someone who knows the author who is trying to get them arrested, trying to take them down. And so the whole movie is really kind of, through the course of this investigation, you're going down this tightrope of balancing, like, so was that the author, or is it someone else who's trying to take her down? And I won't reveal what, but I mean, obviously it is one of those two. It can't really be. It could be a third where it's just completely random, but it would be pretty dumb if it did do that, and it doesn't do that. And then this is where we have the famous scene from the movie, which I knew about for over 15 years before I ever saw this movie, which is the scene where she gets brought in and she's interrogated, and she's just surrounded by all these detectives, and they're all dudes. It's like 10 guys in a room watching Sharon Stone, and she's just telling them how, like, yeah, I just was having sex with him. It's not that crazy. And she's got her legs crossed, and then she uncrosses them, and it shows her, and then she crosses them again, and it's so funny. Wayne Knight is there in the front row, and he's just like, oh, he's just like sweating bullets. And Michael Douglas ends up getting close with Sharon Stone, and then it's playing with this whole idea of like, is he gonna sleep with her? And he himself in the movie, he's under scrutiny because he's been involved in, I think, 4 fatalities within 5 years, and the most recent thing that they mention is that he was a Vice detective undercover, and he had accidentally shot and killed 2 tourists when he was in the line of work, and his ex-girlfriend, who is a psychologist, is working with him to try to clear him in terms of, oh, he's sane, he's fine. But it's funny because they've got this on again, off again relationship going on where it's like, okay, does nobody else know that they're hooking up? Because they're not really shy about getting close or like throwing a quick little peck to each other while they're at the station or standing outside the station. But I guess it doesn't matter. Not in 1992, it doesn't. And yeah. So as we go along, Michael Douglas is getting close with Sharon Stone, and she's telling him that she's writing a new book about a police detective who suspects this woman of committing a murder, and ultimately it leads to his downfall. So yeah, it's bringing up the whole same thing where it's like, oh yeah, you thought that was cool, now let's see what goes on here. I don't know what else to say there. And that also becomes the whole like Chekhov's novella, Chekhov's murder mystery in terms of, okay, so whatever hints we get at about her upcoming novel are likely going to happen. Either they're going to happen like to the T, or they're about to happen and then something will, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, so if it says that he's going to die this way or something, it's like either that is probably going to happen or he's just going to sidestep whatever that terrible fate is. So now we got that other element balancing in here with helping you determine what you think is going to happen. I will say it was probably the movie's about 2 hours 8 minutes, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. It was somewhere around the halfway mark, maybe a little past it, that I kind of guessed who the killer was, or I kind of guessed what was going on. It's so weird because the movie has a bunch of twists. So I was kind of right until I wasn't, if that makes sense. And if you've seen the movie, then you probably know what that means, that I was correct right up until I wasn't. But I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, so I'll make this really quick because like I said, I'm going to be talking more about this in more detail in the Giallo Adjacent podcast on the Patreon. But yes, I did enjoy this. I would say check it out if you haven't seen it. If you're a Giallo fan, you probably will like it. It's, again, I can't say it's a Giallo. I would say it is Giallo Adjacent, but it is very much a crime thriller. It's kind of, like I said, it is very similar to Tenebrae if you were more so following the investigator, and if the author was a woman instead, and was like a lesbian or bisexual or whatever, but bisexual. But yes, that's I'll keep it short and sweet. So check out Basic Instinct if you haven't seen it. Again, how Giallo is this? As a Giallo fan, you'll find a lot in there to enjoy, but again, this isn't a movie I would go out on a limb and say it is. I wouldn't say this is like an American Giallo, but again, it's very similar. It's very similar, and I think at the end of the day, that's all that kind of really matters. You know, you can watch it and you can have a good time. It's not like you're going into this being like, what the like, why did Tanner recommend this? This has nothing to do with it. And it's like, it's not like I said it was. So check it out. See if you like it. like I said, that's kind of all I've got. Or I guess you could say it's an erotic thriller. Excuse me. Yeah, the internet is telling me it's an erotic thriller. I mean, that is true. But, I mean, aren't Giallo films kind of erotic thrillers? I will say this movie also had, like, 3 or 4 intense sex scenes. And then it also had, like, 2 really intense chase scenes, car chase scenes. Like, the first one, I was really like, holy crap, this is making me a little on edge. And it really looked like the landscape you see in those Lenzi Giallo films, like Quiet Place to Kill, when they're driving alongside, I'm pretty sure it's Spain, that countryside, where it's like cliffside with water on this side and cliffs on this, and you're just kind of bobbing and weaving around these, they're not switchbacks, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's all I'll say. So if you're on the Patreon, check out the full Giallo Adjacent episode covering Basic Instinct. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video, and hopefully see you at the next one. Leave any questions, comments, curiosities, or concerns down below. I'll get back to you, as long as you're not being an asshole. And yeah, thanks again for watching. This is Tanner Leeser for The King and Giallo, and nothing else. I'll see you next time.
That's her pussy talking, it ain't your brain.
Yes, come on, yes.
Oiga, por favor,